Everybody, my name is Ames Morison. I'm the winemaker and co-founder of Medlock Ames Winery. And we are joined this evening by Chef Dustin Valette of Valette Restaurant.
Thank you, thank you.
This is a really special weekend for Medlock Ames. This is the weekend that we always have our annual dinner in the Vineyard. It's a really special outdoor gigantic. We have about 80 people that we sit up on a really long, narrow table in the wooded area right next to our vineyard. And it's just a beautiful spot. The light at this time of year in the Alexander Valley is unbelievable. It's so beautiful. And we watch the sunset. And it's just a great way for us to have just break bread and drink with some of our club members who are the people that support us and allow our business to thrive. So our way of saying thank you to them. We can't do it this year because we're all shut down, but we are really grateful that you all are here joining us under these circumstances. And I feel really fortunate to have Dustin join us. Last year we did a few lunches that we asked Valette Restaurant to cater at our vineyard, and I just assumed that he would send someone else to do the cooking. I was shocked when Dustin himself showed up, and not only did he show up and do the cooking, he came out and spoke to our guests. And he's just, Dustin, you just have such a great way of talking, explaining about food, and I can see you're stacked up behind you are all these really interesting hanging cuts of meat, and just the way you do your charcuterie is just really amazing. So thanks so much for joining us.
I'm excited to be here. Plus, I can drink more of your guys' wine. And just so you know, the only reason I showed up, besides the amazing partnership we have, but the biggest part is it's really good wine. So I figured if I go up there and hang out with you at the winery, I can just sit back and drink all I wanted. And it was fantastic. The hard part is they asked me to leave, like very nicely though. They're like, excuse me, sir, it is 11:30 p.m. and you do have to go home. Amazing.
So we're going to pour 4 of Medlock Ames's wines that Chef Dustin has paired with some recipes with 3 different recipes that he's created, and we're actually especially lucky to get you tonight because something really important is happening in Sonoma County this weekend. So what's going on with you guys right now?
Our restaurant is finally back open. We're very excited about it. We're ecstatic. We love the to-go. We love doing the community support to our to-go models, but we're very enthusiastic. We actually opened up last night for the first night. So initially we were gonna do this big dinner with me and you, and it was fantastic. I was so excited. And then of course COVID came, so we had to change it. And then I was like, well, you know what? We'll have you at the restaurant and we'll do a big to-go dinner. It'd be fantastic. And then of course, last minute, Sonoma County opened up our ability to dine inside the restaurant. So our restaurant's actually open to the public in 24 minutes. So not going to be short, but I'm going to drink a couple glasses of wine and then go do what I do best, which is eat a lot of food and cook a lot of food separately, of course, and drink a bunch of great wines. So very excited.
Sorry, just
we're having
Dustin, can you hear me?
There's an earthquake. There's an earthquake in California, guys. This is very rough. Oh, nope, we're over. Just good. Glass of wine.
So the first wine we're going to pour tonight is our 2017 Lower Slope Chardonnay. And Chardonnay is an interesting variety for me. Most of our production at Medlock Ames is Cabernet. And it's really most of my thinking and focus is really about how to tame big tannin cabs and make them really soft and supple and elegant. So that's my biggest challenge, and that's sort of where most of my thinking is. And it was really hard for me to conceptualize, really understand Chardonnay, and it took several years to sort of understand the nature of it. And our cellar team is really innovative, and they always like to experiment and try new things. And so through trial and error, we found this, for lack of a better word, a recipe for making our Chardonnay that really respects the fruit much more. And so with the lower slope, we found this one little sort of micro block of our Chardonnay that I call it the sweet spot. It's planted to 2 different clones. It's got a little bit of the Seas clone of Chardonnay, which gives this lemony character. And then the other part is Old Wente, which provides this floral sort of pear and pome fruit character. And the blend of those two together is really beautiful. And then we also do about half of it's fermented and aged in stainless steel tank. So that really helps maintain a lot of the freshness of the fruit. And then the other half is fermented and aged in French oak barrels. And so that kind of provides this richness. We do lots of lees stirring, so that also gives more richness to the wine, so it really enhances the mouthfeel. And so I'm really curious to hear how Dustin, how you are creating, you have paired this wine with your recipe.
So my first question is it from like the upper part of the hill or like the lower part of the hill?
Okay, so it's called the lower slope. So,
come on, we gotta break up a little bit.
Okay.
So when it comes to the wine is fantastic. That the malolactic you have in there with that little bit of French oak, and it's very balanced. It's not this big oak bomb. It's very nuanced, very elegant. But again, you talk about the lees, you talk about stirring the lees, you talk about that malolactic fermentation, you talk about just the depth of the wine. And the part that I love is the acidity is there, the floral is there, but there's also this, I don't want to say brininess, but you have this, like, for me, it's the back of your palate. It's probably the acidification, but there's this little back of the palate right here where the acid is balanced, but you have this richness, right? And what we paired this with after like 3 glasses, I had to work very hard for you, by the way. I had to drink almost a whole bottle. It was rough. Like, had a sweat. It was tough. But we did was we paired it with an ahi poke. And the reason with the poke is we really wanted to have a balanced back of the wine. So what we did was we did ahi poke with a little soy kombu on there. And then to match that warm, to match the elegance of the wine, we did warm avocados. So it's actually a twist of our classic dish, which we made completely available to go. I think we've had like 30 orders already on this one. But the idea is we want to give people the ability to try the poke with the wine and really kind of compare and contrast. When you eat the poke, you have that, poke is a Hawaiian ahi, which is a big tuna fish that we mix with a little bit of actual raw onion and then a Split Rock Farms olive oil and a little bit of sesame seeds and nori. Basically make a furikake. Furikake is a Japanese rice seasoning, but it has great mineralities to it, which pulls out mineralities in the wine, but also has this great kind of compare and contrast. So you have the wine, you taste that beautiful acidity, that great malolactic, the great mouthfeel, right? Just right here on the palate. And then the ahi has this soy kombu. So kombu is kelp from our ocean. We take these big pieces of kelp, we dry them out, and we boil it in sake and rice wine vinegar. So what happens is it pulls out all this natural umami, and we use that at the bottom of the poke with the raw ahi, and it adds this salinity with this rich mouthfeel from warm avocados, and just that clean, bright, refreshing pop of the ahi. The thing we did to kind of change up a little bit is we put a little additional furikake on top, and something totally different we haven't actually done before is we put in a little bit of sesame inside there. We took sesame, ground up really fine, and added this really fine sesame powder. What it does is there's a bitter element with the sesame, which when it balances the wine, the richness, that malolactic, probably coming from all your stirring the lees, you get this beautiful malolactic richness, and that bitterness just balances beautifully, and it keeps the wine bright and refreshing on the palate. So, came out pretty darn good.
That sounds awesome.
I know. Now, if it wasn't for COVID, we'd be sitting here eating it right now, right? I'd be like, hey, Ames, and let's try it. But instead, we're like, let's try it. Go off the screen, and then come back on. You're like, oh, it's delicious.
Well, cool. So you asked where in the vineyard that block is. You said it was at the top of the hill or the bottom of the hill.
Come on, lower slope. It was like a softball pitch. You know, it was like maybe softball, like a tee ball. Like some guy came out there, put a ball on the tee. It's like just hit the ball really hard. You can do it.
Yeah.
Here's all over again.
So our Chardonnay block is undulating. There's high spots and there's low spots. The really high spots are sort of the top of the hill. That tends to drain really easily, really well. The soil's thinner and the vines don't grow as much. So as a result, the fruit it's more exposed to the sun, has less shading from leaves. And that extra sun exposure gives it more of a sort of extra ripe, kind of almost tropical aroma, which is interesting. And I like it, but we're looking for something a little bit different. And then the swales, or the lowest points, the water tends to collect there. It's the last part to drain. Those grow a little bit more. There's more leaf area, and it takes longer to ripen. And those have a little more kind of green apple notes. And so but what we're looking for is sort of halfway in between those. So what we call the lower slope. It's not the top. It's not the bottom of the block, and that's sort of where we get our best flavors.
Fantastic. Beautiful wine. Beautiful. And I love the fact that you were strained on the oak. It wasn't this big oak bomb. And hopefully most everyone out there is watching this taste this. If you haven't, Chardonnay is fantastic. It has that perfect blend of great acidity, great mouthfeel. And from a food standpoint, very diverse. And we can do everything from a seared scallop. Corn's in season right now. So like corn would be great. So many different nuances of the wine. Gives you a lot of dexterity, a lot of flexibility with the wine pairings. And that's why we had to do a poke it. Classic, just slightly modified. So again, people were taking this dish home tonight. There's like 30-ish, something like that, pokies we have. We modified it slightly to kind of match up and pair with the wine a little more. So,
awesome.
Love it.
So the next wine, we're going to pour 2 different wines for the next course. The first one is our 2016 Bell Mountain Cabernet Sauvignon. And what are you pairing this with?
So, this is a tough one. So we went back and forth. So at first we thought about doing a lamb, right? And then we went the Malbec. We do the Cab and the Malbec back and forth. We thought about maybe doing like a lamb dish, but you were kind of talking about how, Cabernet is kind of in your wheelhouse. And the thing I love about it is it's very balanced. You don't have this big tannic in Napa Valley Cab. You don't have this astringent ripping your tongue apart, massively, you barely breathe like a cigar Cab. Instead, it's very balanced, very nuanced. So what we did was we did in New York. It's a American Kobe from Snake River. So it's half Black Angus and half Wagyu, which is Wagyu is what they make Kobe beef out of. And it's absolutely beautiful. The steak, we cured it. And then to keep up with all those tannins and to keep the jammy element kind of bright on the wine, what we did was we actually did a beef belly. So think about bacon, right? Bacon is from a pig. You take the belly, which I have plenty of, and then you cure it and you smoke it. So we did the same concept, but we used beef. So we took a beef belly, right? Similar to like brisket, like we ever had pastrami before. Took a beef belly and we cured it. We did a very, very light smoke on it. And then we actually sous vide it. So put it in a water bath, like a big jacuzzi, right? For 72 hours. What it does is it breaks down the tissues in that tough beef belly, but it doesn't have a beef shred. If you ever get like a pulled pork sandwich, there's little shredded pieces inside there.
Yeah.
You get like brisket and you cut into like a classic brisket, there's little shredded pieces. What it does is it's the actual muscle tissue is breaking down. So the fat around the outside of the singular muscle tissue itself, the little string, breaks and the inside doesn't break down. But if you sous vide it, you're cooking it at a constant temperature for a long period of time. It allows that beef belly or brisket belly, it allows it to have the same kind of textural break. The reason why we're so long-winded is it comes out this like buttery, it's as tender as filet, but it's actually a very tough cut, the belly. So we cure it, we do a very light smoke, and then we sous vide it for 72 hours. And then we did that with a little bit of black garlic. So we took black garlic, which is fermented garlic. We take raw garlic, we ferment it in like an old-fashioned rice cooker. Super fun, just how you do grapes. And then we glaze that on top. And then we baked it off in the oven to get it nice and hot and caramelize that black fermented garlic. And then we did puffed beef tendons. So we took a tendon, the Achilles tendon on a cow, and we actually cooked it for about 6 hours. And then we dehydrated just the singular tendon, just the very center part. And then that we actually dehydrated and then basically fried it in really, really hot oil. And it puffs just like a chicharron. So what you're doing is you're taking 3 different cuts of the beef. You're taking the New York, which is the more classic cut we all had before. You're taking the belly, which is a very uncommon cut, and you're curing it and you're cooking it long enough to make it very tender. And then you're taking the tendon, which is kind of like I think a throwaway for most people, and we're modifying it. And we're basically treating all these different techniques to it to make this literal chicharron. And it literally goes, it crunches, explodes in your mouth. It's fantastic. And the reason we did that is the belly itself, because it's been sous vide for so long, has a singular texture, right? Think about wine. When you're tasting that wine right now, you want to have texture in the wine. You want to have acidity, balance, tannins, but you want to have texture in it. And with the beef tendon, what it does is when it's puffed, it's literally a chicharron. I mean, it looks exactly like a chicharron. It's amazing, right? I learned this technique like 10 years ago by some obscure French guy I met one time. It was crazy. But we do this technique. What it does is it gives texture back to the dish. So you take this crunchy beef tendon with a soft, sweet, sticky, tacky, delicious beef belly, and then you have the unctuousness of the actual steak. The last part we did that is we did a little smoked potato puree. So we took potatoes, Yukon Golds, we poached them off in water, and then we actually pureed that with a little bit of butter and cream. I'm French, so we have to have butter and cream. If we don't have butter and cream in our cooking, it's like I get chastised, I get kicked out, and like I'm no longer French. So we did a little butter and cream inside there. And then to break it all up, we did that earthiness in the wine. The wine is beautiful, but it has that, that earthiness, that classic cab earth depth to it. So for that, we actually used king trumpet mushrooms grown right here in Sebastopol, and we seared them in butter. We roast them in butter in the oven. So we have this great depth, this great mushroom in there with that beef belly, that crispy the tendon chicharron, if you will, and then the New York. Last part we did is we took some onions, some little spring onions. So we charred the onions, and we made a charred onion butter. So it's this beautiful, bright green, gorgeous little kind of dish. It came out really good. And I had to eat it twice just because I needed it. First time to make sure it worked, and the second time to make sure it worked. It was good.
That sounds amazing. Can't wait to try that. So Cabernet and steak, it's a classic combination.
Fantastic.
And the reason is, one of the reasons is that Cabernet, especially from our region in the hills above the Alexander Valley, tends to have a lot of tannin in it. And the tannin can be a little bit astringent, so kind of grippy. And when the tannin in the wine combines with the protein in the steak, then the two bind together, and so it sort of makes it so that your tongue can't absorb those in your bitter taste bud receptors. So it makes the wine feel much softer. And then conversely, the way you described that your meat, there's a fair amount of fat in it, and our wine has our growing region in sort of the southern part of the Alexander Valley tends to be on the cool side. We're probably at the cooler limit of where you can grow Cabernet Sauvignon. And so it tends to have more acid. There's less heat that's transpiring the acid during the growing season. And so that acid helps cut through the fat. And sort of the two together, I think, make this really wonderful pairing. So I can't wait to try this pairing in the restaurant.
They really do. They really honestly, they balance really well. And again, I completely echo what you say. I mean, it's that cold region, that just the development of the acidity and the depth of those tannins, but they're very balanced. They're not this big, huge tannin bomb. They're very, very balanced. So it came out very good.
And then the 2016 vintage was generally kind of warm for most of the growing season, but then kind of the key ripening months of August and September, it cooled down quite a bit. And so that allowed us to just keep the grapes on the vine, ripening, developing softer tannins without getting too high of sugar, which creates too high of an alcohol. But because it was a little bit cooler, these are sort of more on the red fruit side of the spectrum. So we get more raspberry, cherry aromas. Then in a warmer year, we get more blackberry, blackcurrant, sort of blueberry notes. So the other wine that we're pairing, or that you paired with your dish, is what we call our 2017 secret ingredient Malbec.
The Malbec is so good. That Malbec is epic. Seriously, it's so good. And Malbec's not a very big classic. Like, that's not a very traditional grape varietal, right? It's just kind of starting out.
Yeah, well, it's really big. It's sort of the national variety of Argentina. It's one of the traditional, Bordeaux, 5 main Bordeaux varieties. But I think it's becoming a really, it's going to be a really hot item in the Alexander Valley. Jesse Katz.
Are you just saying that because it's like warm? The wine's too warm?
What's that?
Wine's too warm? I was joking. Bad joke intended. There we go.
I know. I'm really excited about not only ours, but some other growers in the region are making some really great Alexander Valley Malbecs.
Love it.
And so sometimes people would say, well, it's because it's called secret ingredient. People say, what's the secret ingredient that you put in there? And it's a little bit confusing because for us, the Malbec is our secret ingredient. and in the year 2010 and 2011, it was one of the coldest years in California's history. It was really hard to get anything right that year. And we were harvesting most of the vineyard in November because it just took so long to get enough heat to ripen everything. And right. as a result, everything had pretty low alcohol for California. We were 13.5%, which is pretty low for Cabernet these days. And but so we had just a little bit of Malbec. It was the first year that we harvested our block of Malbec. And we put a little bit of Malbec in all of our red wines. And it just made everything come alive. It just sort of, just even like 1 or 2%, just gave everything this fruity pop and made it richer. And so we call this wine our secret ingredient.
That's nice. I love it. And it's a fantastic Malbec too. Let's drink that real quick. That's so balanced. So we're going to take new fancy technology and we're going to go old school. So we're talking about that in New York. See if this works. So this right here is in New York we were talking about. So this is the one we paired with it. This right here is a steak. This is a smoked potato. This is that charred green onion right there. And this right here is the little king trumpet. We did some of that spring onion, also the green onion, same one inside there. A little bit of snap peas. And then this right here is the beef belly with the actual tendons back on top. There we go, back onto it. So this is the dish we paired, and this is what we're doing at the restaurant to kind of pair up your fantastic wines. Unfortunately, in our new COVID world, this is how we're doing it, right? Like, look how good this looks. You can't actually taste it right now, but we're going to show you guys and tease everyone out there, okay? So when you have hate mail, people get pissed off at us, you'll be like, what are you doing? You're teasing us. That's the actual dish. And it is so good, the cab. But, honestly, it works really well with Malbec too. And that was the crazy part, It's amazing how those two wines they blend beautifully back together. Not in the glass, but on the palate of how you can taste the nuances of the two. It's fantastic.
Just looking at your picture, I feel like I can almost taste it.
Hey, and guys, please, no licking the screens. It's really awkward, all right? We all see it out there, okay? So if you start licking the screens, we're all going to take screenshots and we're going to post that everywhere. So don't do it. I see you over there, that person right there with the butter knife in her hand. See? Yeah, I'm watching you. Yeah. My eyes are on you, lady. Yeah.
And Dustin, I feel like I've tasted your that fermented black garlic. Is that sort of your signature or one of your specialties, or is that?
It's not. I wouldn't say signature. I think our charcuterie. We'll do a quick little FaceTime thing or screen. We'll show what we have. So this is our little charcuterie in the background right here. Of course, our wine is all laid out. But I wouldn't say signature. I think the reason I love the fermented garlic, the black garlic, so much is what it does is. Think about grapes. You eat a grape. We've all had grapes before, and granted, a Cabernet grape tastes different than the Thompson Seedless we get at Big John's or Whole Foods. But when you eat that grape, it's just sugary. It's sweet. It's kind of one-dimensional, right? You eat the Cabernet grape, the skin has a lot of flavor in it, but it's not. I don't want to say one-dimensional, but there's not a lot of complexity to it, right? Now we take that grape, we crush it, we let it sit in those skins, we do the fermentation process, we barrel age it. You get all these nuances. You get the complexity that the magician on the other side right now of the computer screen develops. But you change the core essence of a sugary grape to this beautiful Malbec, this beautiful cab. And for me, that's why I love showing about black garlic, because the garlic that we do that you're going to have tonight, or whoever has it, is completely raw. It has never, ever been cooked. And that to me is the best part. You're using fermentation. So we literally use the natural born bacteria on the outside of the garlic shell, the outside skins, and we put the garlic at a warm, humid temperature, just like grapes, a little different, and we actually ferment the garlic. So it's exciting to me because it's the same thing you're doing. You're taking a grape that's sugary and, hey, ooh, grapes, sound great, have some cheese. But then you ferment it and you get this amazing complex liquid, wine, right? This is, to me, favorite part about wine is like, it's a screenshot of that year, that vintage, of that terroir. And when you do the same concept, you take black garlic, you take garlic, just generic garlic, and you put it in this rice cooker, that's how we do ours, and you let it ferment, and what comes out is this beautifully complex, deep, rich, intense flavored garlic. And it's like nothing else out there. So I love it for the complexity as dishes, but also for that synergistic and holistic kind of element of taking a grape and fermenting it into wine, taking raw garlic, it's kind of odorous and aggressively strong and matching that with wine. So to me, it has a philosophical balance pairing, if you will, and also has a physical pairing where that fermentation, that complexity, that big, deep, robust flavor is fantastic.
Awesome.
I saw it on TV one time. I don't know. Back drinking my wine.
I was just checking the chat, and somebody asked if you can ship to Texas. And I know we can, but I think that was directed to you.
Hold on. Like, you want me to ship to Texas?
Yeah.
I'm in. Good. Done. There we go. Field trip to Texas. How's tomorrow sound? Like 6 a.m. is good for you? Mazel tov. Pop me the address. I'll see you guys tomorrow. 6:15. That's it. Top.
And then we had someone else admit that, or confess that they did lick the screen.
Hold on. I'm actually gonna start reading these. I'm sort of like flipping through to see who that person was and be like, come on, man. Oh, there she is. Is that Diana? That was her. That's it. We got this on video. You're in trouble now, all right? That's it. Then all you gotta do is say, look, it was a wine tasting seminar. It wasn't a wine drinking seminar. It was wine tasting. So I tasted the screen. Of course, everybody does that. Exactly. It's our own personal justification here, Healdsburg, when we say it's 10 o'clock in the morning, you have a glass of wine. It's goddamn tasting, or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have your second glass of wine. You're like, still a tasting.
Well, that's interesting. When people talk about minerality in wine, it's for some people who've never heard that phrase before, or that term. They want to know, what is minerality? What does that taste like? And so we always say, go lick a stone. And so licking a screen might be similar.
Probably not. And okay, can we have a quick parental advisory here? We are not condoning licking stones or screens. This quick hashtag advisory. Thank you. No lawsuit. Don't sue me. That was not my concept or idea. His name is Ames. It was his idea. So go lick it.
Okay, and then for the last course, we're pouring our late harvest Sauvignon Blanc, and the name of this is called Thistle. And the reason it's called Thistle is I learned sort of my inspiration to farm organically came from my father, who was a farmer. Our family's been farming the same land for generations, and we had this sort of infestation of thistles on the land. And my father went to the county expert and said, well, how do you get rid of them? And they said, well, you can spray this herbicide. It's pretty cheap, and it'll solve the problem really quickly, or you can just dig them all up. And my father, I think he thought that that would be the cheaper solution, just do it all by hand without having to pay for the chemical. I think that was his bigger motivation. But it took him about 10 years. And every time I was home for vacation, or every time for the summer, my job was to walk around the farm digging up thistles, and I hated it. And it was hot in the Virginia, really humid summer. But I learned that the value of doing really hard work over a really long period of time can yield great results. And so this is sort of an homage to my pop.
That's fantastic.
And the Sauvignon Blanc late harvest is something we only do every 5 years, or even less often. And the conditions have to be just right in the vineyard. And it's when the Sauvignon Blanc gets this disease that normally you don't want. It's called botrytis, and it's the same thing if you leave strawberries in the refrigerator for too long, they get this gray mold on them. It's the same gray mold that you get on these grapes, and it looks awful. And whoever first made the decision to go ahead and make wine out of these molded fruit, I don't know how that person persevered, but what that mold does is it creates these tiny little cracks in the skin, and those tiny cracks allow water to evaporate. So it super concentrates the sugar and flavor, and it gives the wine this kind of really rich honeysuckle, just this really almost a syrupy quality, because it's so sweet. And then we ferment it, and when the fermentation is about 2/3 finished, we arrest the fermentation. We stop it by chilling the wine, and then we age it for longer, and then bottle it. So it's lower alcohol, and it has some sweetness, but it's great for dessert.
It is fantastic. So my only question I have is, Like, do you think that your dad just didn't want you coming around the house very often? So every time he came, he was like, go pick the damn thistles. And like 10 years later, he's like, come on, Pop, what's going on? I love it. But I mean, I think it's true. And not only that, but also you sit back and you talk about botrytis. You talk about the conditions have to be perfect, right? And think about what botrytis is. Botrytis is literally extracting the water from the grape and it's concentrating the sugars. But it's also concentrating the intensity. The thing I love about the wine is intense, and it has this, God, I don't know, this just intense floral element. Now, the only problem I have is fantastic. I love Medlock Ames. They're amazing. But they gave me 2 bottles of all the wine and 1 bottle of your dessert wine, which I already drank. I went down the cellar today. I had all the wines laid out. I opened the box. I'm like, all right, we're going to pop all the wines and taste them. And I was like, what the hell? So I'm going to go off memory, but it was fantastic. And the part I love the most is it has that Semillon kind of like aromatics to it, right? That diversimeter, that really floral punch in the nose, but then it's so deep, it's so intense. It hits for me in the back of the palate. It just lingers. It keeps carrying. And when I drank it, I think I drank like half the bottle that night because every time you would put the glass down, I do my notes for the pairings, and it just kept coming back. It was just intense and bright and delicious. And unctuous is a great word. I mean, it just was salivating on the palate. It's fantastic. And by the way, apparently I'm going to Florida too. So Texas, perfect, done. I love it.
And so, what's your dessert course?
That was the hardest one we did, right? So the frangipane. We do a frangipane. Frangipane it's kind of like a cookie, right? It's this French cookie. So I was making frangipane. The day I was doing the tasting, I was making frangipane. I couldn't get frangipane out of my head. It was just like burnt. It's like French cookie. Just burnt in my head. And we started playing around. And the thing that I thought was fantastic, and I got split, is I thought about doing frangipane with it, which is French cookie. But the intensity in that wine is just it's intense. It's really big, robust, really delicious, but very intense. So I came up with 2 different wines. I came up with the bread, butter, and jam. This thing is hilarious. It is a piece of buttermilk brioche, which we all have brioche. But what we do is we actually make almost like a dulce de leche, a very heavily reduced milk, and all of the natural sugars inside there. So you get this kind of like caramel, sticky milk syrup, and we dip this brioche in there, and we actually candy that. We caramelize that in the oven, and it pulls out these great sweet honeysuckle flavors, which I kept hitting on the wine. Honeysuckle kept coming back up. And then with that, we did a brown butter ice cream. Again, French, gotta do butter. So we took the milk solids of butter, and we actually toasted the milk solids, and we made ice cream out of the toasted milk solids of butter. It was so good. It is so good. And then with that, we did something totally left field. We did roasted peaches. So we took peaches and we roasted peaches, and we did it with a little bit of huckleberries. We had some frozen huckleberries from our last harvest, and the roasted peaches, they were good, but it needed more depth to it. So we put these huckleberries in with these roasted peaches and made a jam, for lack of a better term, a little bit lighter, not like jam, like this, like the jar, you know, like Welch's, whatever they make jam out of now, but like it was more of a little bit lighter. And the peaches, the huckleberry gives this great kind of fruity, floral, like honey's, like just delicious, like honey flavor to it from the roasted peach. The brioche has this really good, intense caramelization. You get a little bit of that malolactic-y kind of thing coming with the wine, but it really matches that floral element. I mean, the brown butter ice cream is just delicious. So not good for you, but it is so damn good. And I was like, that's it. We're all done. Pairings are set. I got it. I'm done. And then we're playing around with new dessert, a little lemon. So we did a little lemon, it's like a lemon curd with like a shortbread cookie, kind of. But we put cardamom inside the shortbread, and we did this lemon curd, and then all of a sudden it was a complete opposite. It was a completely different direction. The lemon curd is bright, acidic, sharp, and then with the lemon curd dessert, we did a little like roasted strawberry and yuzu, again, keeping the acid pretty strong. And I couldn't shake out my head which was the better pairing, because the dessert wine is fantastic. But the thing is, the thistle dessert wine is fantastic. But then the thing was like that lemon curd is acidic and bright, and it cuts away the sugar. It cuts away the richness and the palate of the wine. And then next to the wine, like all new, right? It's all fresh and all exciting again. And then back to bread, butter, and jam, that caramelized brioche piece, it had this just like robust, intense, beautiful pairing. So I went back and forth. So finally I threw my hands up and I said, you know what, guys? Dealer's choice. So you gotta pick either the lemon tart, the lemon curd on there, and the strawberry yuzu ice cream, or the buttermilk brioche with the brown butter ice cream. It was tough. And it was a rough choice, but I said, you know what, we're in the middle. And then I thought about being all like quirky and making like a thistle dessert. So I went out there and I started thinking like, can you infuse thistle in the And the answer is no, by the way, in case you're curious. You cannot do thistle in any kind of food. I have yet to find it. I thought about using the cactus, the little cactus bulbs, or the flowering element of fruits on a cactus, with a concept and ideas kind of like a thistle, but it still didn't work. So I did like 3 different versions. My sous chef was joking. He's like, oh, you should taste the thistle and see how it tastes. I was like, no. Thistle. Like, I tried cooking with one. I made like a syrup out of it. I was like, it tastes horrible. So thistle does not work with thistle. But lemon curd with a little like cardamom crust or a buttermilk brioche, fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, Dustin, thanks so much for joining us. I know that you've got service coming up, and we really appreciate you being with us. And I also just want to thank all of you guys for joining us on this call. I sort of also want to express this sort of very personal gratitude. Last year, the fires, the Kincaid fire swept through our vineyard and burned, hundreds of acres of trees and did a lot of damage. We lost a building. It was, nobody was hurt, so I feel very fortunate.
Yeah.
And now we're watching, things are a lot of the trees have died, but some of them are starting to come back. And it's just this, I feel grateful for this, the power of nature, and it's sort of constantly renewing. It's very resilient. And one of the silver linings is that we used to have this really dense wooded area, and now we're able to see a little bit better. And so that's something I'm grateful for. And then the other thing is the global pandemic. It's, taken a horrible toll on the people who've, suffered from it physically. And it's also been hard for, people to be shut in for months. And so Sonoma County is just starting to open up, and I'm grateful for that. But it's also given me this, I've done a lot of introspection, and I feel so, I usually view myself as sort of a recluse. I'm kind of shy, but it's made me feel much more connected to everybody. And we've been doing these Zoom tastings every week for the past several weeks, and it's been really fun. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy it. So thank you all so much for joining us on this, and I hope that we get to see you next year at our dinner in the Vineyard.
Thank you so much. Hey guys, I agree. It was fantastic. I hope to see you guys out here in Sonoma County. And I think what you said, nail on the head. We got to look at the shine. We got to look at the beauty, the forest of the trees, if you will. Is just sit back and look at the beautiful place that we live. Look at the fact that we have an amazing, all us individually, our own beautiful families, our own lives, and we're very fortunate to have what we have. And if you're out in this area, please come stop by the restaurant. And if nothing else, just sit back, take a second, enjoy a great glass of wine, have some, do not eat thistles, by the way. Bad idea, don't cook them. But, have a little bit of food and just share it with your family, share it with your friends, and just enjoy this moment. We're very fortunate to be here, and cheers, everyone. Thank you. I do need to go cook. I actually was supposed to be doing this at the restaurant, and I ran home to grab a piece of charcuterie, and I was like, it's 5 o'clock. So I just grabbed it here, dropped it, and I was like, we'll do it here in the cellar. So I'll be back to the restaurant. If you're based in Healdsburg, stop by, say hi. I'll be at the restaurant in about 30 seconds. And in the meantime, thank you guys very much. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye, everybody.